Hello everyone and happy Friday! Tonight, despite criticizing Barack Obama for pushing an anti-Israel resolution through the UN just weeks ago, Donald Trump now says the continued construction of settlements may not be helpful to Middle East peace efforts. And also, a new study indicates that despite the endless whining from our friends on the left, the election actually wasn't influenced by fake news. This is Veley TV.
You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We will preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we will sentence them to take the first step into 1,000 years of darkness. If we fail, at least let our children and our children's children say of us, we justified our brief moment here. We did all that could be done.
Hello my friends, welcome to Veley TV. I want to start tonight's episode off with a clip from the presidential debate that took place, the Republican debate that took place last February, 1 year ago, when they were talking about Israel, and specifically the question was about, how would you solve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict? What would you do? And Donald Trump gave an answer that I criticized him for heavily on the air. You can go back in my archives, it's all out there. I criticized him heavily for this. Listen to what he said 1 year ago in the presidential debate.
There's nothing that I would rather do to bring peace to Israel and its neighbors generally. And I think it serves no purpose to say that you have a good guy and a bad guy. Now, I may not be successful in doing it. It's probably the toughest negotiation anywhere in the world of any kind, okay? But it doesn't help if I start saying, I am very pro-Israel, very pro, more than anybody on the stage. But it doesn't do any good to start demeaning the neighbors, because I would love to do something with regard to negotiating peace, finally, for Israel and for their neighbors. And I can't do that as well as a negotiator. I cannot do that as well if I'm taking big sides. With that being said, I am totally pro-Israel.
And I challenged him for that, for a number of reasons. First of all, he said, you can't look at this as good versus bad, as the good guys versus the bad guys. Well, the reality of it is there is a good side and there is a bad side. This is a classic example of good versus evil. The reason I wanted to play that clip for you, ladies and gentlemen, was because I found this article online on foxnews.com. It's being reported on several other sites as well. President Trump on Thursday warned Israel that constructing new settlements may not be helpful to Middle East peace efforts, despite, before taking office, criticizing the Obama administration for not vetoing a United Nations Security Council measure condemning the settlements. So he's going forward and he's saying that, look, Israel constructing these new settlements might not be helpful. Something that came straight out of the mouth of Barack Obama just a few months ago. The Washington Post reported that the Trump administration also pulled back somewhat on its pledge to move the U.S. Embassy in Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. David Halperin, there you go. The executive director of the Israeli Policy Forum told the paper that Trump's move serves as a caution to Netanyahu. It's a warning sign to the Israeli right that their celebration of the new administration may be premature, he said. Now let me make a few things clear. First of all, I think that Donald Trump's heart is in the right place here. I do. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. I don't think that he's anti-Israel for saying these things. Not in the least bit. That was Barack Obama. See, even though Donald Trump here sounds very, very similar to Barack Obama, coming out and saying, well, the construction of these settlements might not help. I think there is still a fundamental difference between Donald Trump and Barack Obama. Barack Obama, I think, was an anti-Semite to a certain degree. I really do. Barack Obama was against these settlements, was against Israel because he was against Israel. He could not stand Israel. He could not stand Netanyahu. Barack Obama's position came from nothing but hate, nothing but hostility. Donald Trump, his position is coming from, okay, how can I help? Even though it's kind of stupid what he's saying, I think he's really trying to help, trying to make things better. Here's the problem. This is a point that I brought up last year, is that Donald Trump has been a businessman for many years. He's negotiated many different deals with many different companies and individuals, and that's all well and good. I mean, he's made billions of dollars doing that. He's very, very successful. The problem is, being president of the United States, the leader of the free world, is not the same as being a businessman. Running a nation is not the same as running a business. It's just not. So Donald Trump looks at this situation and he says, okay, how can I cut a deal between Israel and the Palestinians? What can I do? How can I go in there and negotiate this? What he's not understanding is there are some things that can't be negotiated. What he's not understanding is sometimes there are, it is a case of good versus evil. Sometimes you have to simply pick a side, stick to it, and help them. That's what you need to do. That's the way a president thinks. That's the way a leader should think. Especially the leader of the free world. But his mind is so wrapped up in, okay, business deals, negotiations. How can I help this? Let's look at this objectively. And you can't look at everything through the eye of a businessman. You just can't. Things are often either a lot more complicated than that or a lot simpler than that. As we're seeing here, this is cut and dry, black and white, good versus evil. Now, with regards to the settlements, Donald Trump says, and Barack Obama said, that their continued construction might not be helpful to peace efforts in the Middle East. It's not, let's flip that over for a minute. If Israel were to stop constructing settlements, what would happen? What would happen? I mean, it's apparently Barack Obama wanted them to stop the construction of settlements, and now Donald Trump is hinting at that. So what would happen if they did? What would happen if they did? I want to play a little bit of an episode from Prager University for you, talking about this this issue. Prager University, by the way, is a resource that I use constantly. They do a fantastic job there. On YouTube, they have videos on basically every single issue that you can imagine, and they explain things in a very, very clear way. Prager University is great. Let me play a little bit of this for you. Take a look.
If Israel were to pull out of every single settlement in the West Bank tomorrow, it's unlikely that anything much would change. In fact, if history is any indicator, Israel could be worse off. In 2005, Israel abandoned every single community, every house, every farm, every structure it had built in the Gaza Strip. How did the Palestinians of Gaza react? They launched thousands of rockets and numerous other terror attacks against the nation-state of the Jewish people. The attacks continue to this very day. And every year, the range of these rockets get longer and their payloads more lethal. Only a very sophisticated Israeli anti-missile defense keeps the country secure. Can you blame Israel for not wanting to risk a two-front rocket war? But Israel has no right to be in the West Bank at all, many say. So permit me, a law professor at Harvard, to say that on the basis of international law, this position is incorrect. Military occupations are clearly permitted under international law following an aggressive attack by a neighboring state. Jordan, Israel's neighbor to the east, attacked Israel in 1967 despite Israel's repeated efforts to keep Jordan out of the Six-Day War. In defending itself against Jordan, Israel captured the West Bank and the eastern part of Jerusalem. Under international law, until a meaningful peace is achieved and all terrorism against it ceases, Israel has every right to retain military control over this area. Since no peace treaty has been reached and the terrorism continues with new attacks threatened almost daily, Israel is under no legal obligation to leave.
There you go. This is their land. I mean, look, I know that wasn't the argument that Donald Trump was making. He wasn't out there saying this isn't their land, but it's an important point here. It's relevant. This is their land. This is their homeland. And what these people out there are saying is that they don't have a right to build homes, communities on their homeland. That's ridiculous. Israel has a history. Israel has a history for decades of going above and beyond to try to negotiate peace with the Palestinians. At times, they've given up close to 95% of the West Bank and all of Gaza Strip. All of the Gaza Strip. And what we see happen every single time with the Palestinians is when Israel does something to try to reach a peace agreement with them, Israel upholds its end of the bargain, and the Palestinians continue to fire rockets, continue to send in suicide bombers. It's never ending. Why? Because the goal of the Palestinians, the goal of groups like Hamas and Hezbollah, is not to reach a peace agreement with Israel. It's to blow them off the face of the earth. And stopping the construction of settlements isn't going to change their mind. It's not going to change their mind. So I'm fairly disappointed with Donald Trump for saying this, taking the position of Barack Obama. I understand that, you know, his heart is in the right place, that he wants to do good, that he wants to create peace. I genuinely believe he does want that to happen. But the way to achieve peace is not by telling Israel it has to do more. That's not how it's done. You can't look at everything through the eye of a businessman. Donald Trump needs to understand now that he's the leader of the free world. He's no longer just a negotiator. He's no longer a businessman. He's much more than that. He has to start looking at things as the President of the United States. Have you guys noticed that ever since CNN and BuzzFeed were caught with that outrageous story about Donald Trump, the Democrats have kind of stopped saying fake news over and over again? I mean, before that, before the CNN and BuzzFeed scandal, the left, they couldn't get enough of this. Yeah, you know, we got to stand up against fake news, and we're going to be doing something against this fake news, and we're going to be regulating social media sites to help combat fake news, and fake news contributed to the election of Donald Trump, and fake news this and fake news that, on and on and on. Well, now there's a new study released, and this is published on thehill.com, that said that fake news actually did not change the result of the 2016 election. Go figure. Fake news did not change the result of the 2016 presidential election, according to a new study by researchers at Stanford and NYU released on yesterday. The study shows that fake news stories favorable to Republican nominee Donald Trump far outnumbered similar stories about Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton. But only 8% of voters actually read those stories, and even fewer recall or believed what they were reading, researchers said. Well, of course, because statistics show that most people in this country don't trust the mainstream media anymore, and they're right in doing that. Favorable but fake Trump news was shared 30 million times on Facebook during the campaign, while fake pro-Clinton news was shared about 7 million times. Our data suggests that social media were not the most important source of election news, and even the most widely circulated news stories were seen by only a small fraction of Americans, lead researchers Hunt Alcott and Matthew Genskow wrote, in order for fake news to have a real effect on the election, it would have had to have been as persuasive as 36 television ads, the study concludes. So there you go. Fake news became so prominent in 2016, PolitiFact named it the Lie of the Year, a dubious award usually reserved for humans. So there you go, folks. This liberal push to combat fake news, as I've said many times before, it's not in the interest of getting real factual information out there. It's in the interest of shutting down conservative thought and conservative speech. That's what it is. It's just another way for Democrats to come in and say, hey, we're going to solve a problem for you. And then what they really do is they attack conservatives. They attack the right. That's what this is. So I just want all my Democrat friends to know out there that fake news, no matter how much you may believe in it, no matter how often you may say it influenced the election, it really did not. Get over it, you lost. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you very, very much for watching new episodes of Veley TV every single weeknight at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, immediately following my radio program. Also, check us out online, youthrevolt.org/VeleyTV, youthrevolt.org/VeleyTV. Have a great weekend, everybody. I'll see you Monday. God bless. Going out there, setting things on fire, being nothing but rabble-rousers, smashing things, spray painting things. I mean, you look like a bunch of hoodlums. And I want you to know that that's how the rest of the country sees you. You see yourselves as freedom fighters. You see yourselves as rebels, as the resistance, as fighting for the side of good. I'm telling you, that is not how the rest of the country sees you.